So thank you so much for meeting with me. And are
Of
you
course.
ready for the questions?
Let's do them. Yeah.
Okay, great. So first question, where did your love for theater and performing start?
So my love for performing started in high school. I had a teacher who joined my junior year of high school who was just that teacher that everyone always has that inspires them to want to do it. So I think that was she forced us all forced us all to audition for the play, the school play. And I did it and I was like, wow, this was fun. And then I wanted to keep doing it and the love continued to grow. I saw the touring production of In the Heights after my freshman year of college in 2010. Um, and that was like really the solidifying moment. Up until then, I was like, oh, this is fun and I would love to do it. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, I have to do it now. Like this is a must. So yeah, those were kind of the big moments in my life.
So the first time you saw the show, what stood out to you about it?
I saw it right after I booked it actually. And so I think what really stood out to me, I mean, it was as good as people had said it was, like that by the time I saw it, it was like 2018, so the hype was in, full effect. And I remember even with all the hype, I was still blown away. I was blown away by the every single moment. I remember because I listened to the recording a lot, so like the words I had and the themes and the metaphors of the show I was familiar with, but I remember the Yorktown solo. You haven't seen it. Have you seen it on Disney Plus?
Yes, I've seen it on Disney Plus.
Okay. So the Yorktown moment where all the spotlights hit everyone,
Yeah,
I was blown away by that. And also like I was really blown away by, how the lighting, something that you don't get to see on the recording, how the lighting
right.
really was like its own character in a sense. It was the way it was used was very beautiful and it really stood out to me, and that's not something I feel like that usually stands out to me. I'm usually
Mhm.
more about the performances, and I thought the performances were incredible, but I remember being very like taken by the lighting of it all. Rest in peace to Howell Binkley who did it, but
Right.
yeah, I was like, wow, it was very beautiful. So yeah.
That's awesome. And do you have a favorite message or theme in the show?
I think my favorite one is the line my character says, legacy, what is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. I think that's a really beautiful line, and a really beautiful message, and just kind of a reminder to, you know, reminder people that we never know how we're going to be remembered or seen or viewed in the future, but to just do, the best we can to treat people with kindness and respect and love, um, and to strive for greatness in whatever, however, that manifests itself for each person. But yeah, I think that's a beautiful message.
And then what was the audition process for you like?
So mine was pretty shortened. They were looking for an immediate replacement, so I auditioned like 5 times over the course of 2 weeks, but like 4 days, So, and it was like I would go in, sing a couple songs for each character. So, also, fun fact, I started as a standby. So, when I joined
Okay.
the company in 2018, I was an offstage standby. I covered Hamilton, Washington, and Burr. And then later on, they added Lafayette Jefferson. And so, my initial audition, it was like 3 songs from each character. I sang all the songs. I was in there for, 30, 45 minutes. I would sing a song, they'd give some notes, I'd sing it again, and we'd talk about it, stuff like that. And then they called me back and they gave me more songs to learn. And I auditioned for like, you kind of just go up the, totem pole. So you audition for the casting
Right.
director. Then after that, you audition for the associate, music supervisor and the associate director on Broadway. And then I auditioned for Alex Lacamoire. Then I had a movement call with the Broadway dance captain. And then I auditioned for
Uh-huh.
Tommy Kail. And then they recorded
Wow.
everything, all my auditions, and sent it to Lynn and the producers, Jeffrey and Maggie and all them, for the sign off. And so it was a very like quick, rushed process. I like started auditioning and then like I started auditioning Thursday, and then 1 week later I booked it. Like, and so in
Wow.
that week I auditioned a ton. And then like, Thursday to Thursday, and then I started rehearsals the following Monday. I rehearsed for 3 weeks in New York, flew out to tour to join them, rehearsed for 2 weeks on tour, and then debuted. And then that was that was it, and then I've been on tour ever since.
That's
But yeah,
crazy.
it was a pretty quick, crazy process for sure.
You have to learn like all the cues and the turntable.
Yeah, turntable,
That's just
props, lighting, where to hit my mark, all the words. There's a million words. So yeah, it was a lot, but now it's in my bones. Now it's like second nature now.
mhm,
I can wake up and do it
right,
and warm up. But yeah.
right. You said you were a standby at first. What is the craziest like standby story? Like, what was the most unexpected time that you had to go on like last minute or?
Yeah, I would say it was a little after I had learned Burr. I had made my debut for Burr. I had only performed it one time, and I was backstage because the standbys are there every day. So I
Right.
was backstage, and I think I was upstairs rehearsing with some of the new people who were coming in, and I was doing
Mhm.
Hamilton because they needed a Hamilton up there, so I was just rehearsing. And then my resident director at the time, she was like, "Hey, you might be going on for Burr tonight," because it was a two-show day. And I was like, "Okay, cool, no worries. I was like, let me go rest my voice then. I don't need to be doing Ham right now if you guys don't really need me." So I went downstairs and I was just kind of chilling. They finish Act One, and the Burr, as he was coming off stage for, we were backstage, and I was across from his dressing room, and he tells his dresser, like, "Hey, I'm not doing Act Two." Um, and that was the first I was hearing about it. And so now my
Wow.
stage manager comes running across like around the corner, and she's like, "You're on for Act Two." I was like, "Okay." So I quickly got dressed for Burr. Um,
hmm
I had the 15-minute, 20-minute intermission, whatever the case may be. And then
Right.
we went and opened Act Two. And, they make the announcement. They're like, for the rest of the performance, the role of Aaron Burr will be played by Edred Utomi. Um, and yeah, it was wild because Burr like opens the act. He opens both acts,
hmm
but he opens the act, and then like 3 songs in, he's doing his hardest number, "Room Where It Happens." So I was thankful that I was upstairs, already kind of warming up by doing Hamilton stuff, like with singing all that material. So, but yeah, that was
Right.
definitely the craziest. It was like, and it was my second time ever doing it, so it was it was a lot. It was crazy, but it was good. It was fun. I
Right.
got that fun standby experience.
Right. I'm sure you brought new energy to the show because whenever a standby joins, everybody's like on their toes, keep them
Yeah,
on
it
their
was
toes.
wild. It's like, okay, what's gonna happen? We'll see. So yeah, it was definitely a lot of energy.
What is the most challenging aspect of doing the show as Alexander Hamilton?
Honestly, I think it's just it's the pacing yourself to like make it through a week. um, it's like knowing how much to give. Honestly, it's there's a lot of like discipline required that I've learned from this role. Um, just like the keeping it all in your head and like the words like when you do it enough, that's not the big thing. The big thing is really the like being able to discipline yourself enough to be able to go to do the entirety of the role as many times as we do it and give the
hmm
same amazing performance every night and not blow out 4 shows in, because it is a monster of a role, and
Yeah.
it's everything. It is the fast rapping, it is the high intensity, but it's also the emotionality and the sobbing on stage. Like it's every part of the
hmm
human experience, so to really like pace yourself and just not just for the role but on tour like as a whole. When we pick up and move every 3 to 4 weeks, there's a discipline there as to like what do you do during the day, before a show, what do you do after a show, like how much recovery are you doing, how much vocal rest are you doing, how much stretching are you doing, how much working out are you doing, stuff like that, to really
Right.
keep your mind, body, and spirit strong while touring the country and doing this. The show is hard enough, but now on top of that,
Right.
it's like, oh, I have to think about, we're leaving on Monday actually to go to Fort Lauderdale. I'm like, oh, I have to start thinking about packing and getting my apartment cleaned up and packing all
Right.
my things and doing laundry and doing all this while doing, 5 shows in the next 3 days. So it's it's a lot, but it's also the, the discipline of learning how to do all that, while keeping the integrity of the show there for the audiences. Yeah.
What is your favorite moment of the show, like to perform or to act?
Yorktown. I always say Yorktown. Yorktown is it's the number. It's the number. There's not a lot of numbers I feel like where everybody is on stage. And
Right.
it's like My Shot, Satisfied, Helpless, Yorktown, and probably a couple others. But like it's always nice when everyone's on stage. And Yorktown, I think, is a really amazing showcase of all the different aspects that make like the show Hamilton amazing. There's like a
Right.
dance solo. There's a lot of super cool rapping. The storytelling is beautiful. The like lighting is gorgeous. It's just like a firing on all cylinders, and the band is killing it down there. So yeah, I think Yorktown for me is like the number of numbers. Yeah, I would say Yorktown.
You mentioned the rehearsal process briefly. What was it like learning Andy Blankenbuehler's choreography because it's so intricate?
It is, as Hamilton, I don't do a lot of the choreo. I have like
Mhm.
I do a little bit in My Shot, and maybe here and there I do a couple moments, but for the most part, I don't dance, which is good because I'm not a dancer. So it's probably best for everyone involved. But Andy still comes and gives notes, and he'll watch the show and he'll give notes, and I like his note sessions are always so informative. It'll be a 4 hour work session day, and we'll spend 2.5, 3 hours on just act one because it's so dense. And, we'll spend 30 minutes on just the opening number and him explaining kind of every single move. So it was really amazing to be in the room with him and to just learn from him. He's, as all the creatives are, he's legitimately a genius. Like I say this about Tommy and Alex Lackamore, Tommy Kail and Alex Lackamore and Lynn. I've met all of them. I've talked with all of them, and I'm like, you guys' brains work in a different way. They're legit geniuses. And so, and Andy is he's wild, and so really hearing him, talk about every single move with such, clarity and intention was amazing. And even though I don't do a lot of dancing, it really inspired me to like dive deeper into my character. Every time he comes, I'll just listen to him talk about dance moves I don't even do, and I have to start reevaluating, my approach to the material. So it's really great. It's really like a masterclass every time he comes, and so yeah, I really enjoyed it.
What is the quality you admire most about Alexander Hamilton and why?
I think his ambition, I think, his ambition is something, it became his downfall, but, they say all good things in moderation. And I think that a healthy, amount of ambition is a good thing. And so I think uh, we wouldn't know who he was if he didn't have his ambition, And so that idea that it's like you're willing to work for what you want, um, and do whatever it takes to get that can be bad and can be good. And so I choose to look at it for most of the show as good. And so I think that's one thing I would for sure say is a good thing about him.
That's great. And then what is something you would like to say or ask your character if you met them in real life?
Um, I don't know if there's anything I would like say or ask. I would more just like I would want him to tell me about his life, like in his own words. I think that would be
Mhm.
just to hear what, I always think it's interesting to hear what people themselves think is important about their lives and think was formative or shaping in their life, as opposed to what we might say is like, oh, this was a defining moment, but maybe it's something, maybe the defining
Right.
moment is something they have never shared really with anybody. And or that they never wrote in any letters or any wrote in anywhere. It was never, written down, but it's something that just he held dear to him. So I would just ask him to kind of like tell me about his life, and I would just sit there and kind of listen to and tell his story and be like, did we get it close? Do we were we on the same page? But yeah,
Right.
I would say that.
And what is the biggest lesson you learned performing this role? I know that, I mean, for a lot of us, like there's Hamel Kids, and you guys also do the student matinees. So what does it mean to you to step into this role and be like the representation on the stage?
It's wildly important. It's important in ways that I've always hoped I would be able to do work like this. I was a young kid in the audience watching people who look like me do the thing that I wanted to do, and I was inspired. I'm here today because of a cast that I saw like ours. So it's never lost on me the like honor that it is to be performing in this way. It's a huge undertaking. I'm thankful and blessed to be able to take part in telling a story that is hopefully inspiring the next generation of young actors of color. Um, and so yeah, I think that's something that will always resonate with me because I was that little boy. I was that young kid, whether it be in college or whatever. Growing up, I watched a lot of TV. I watched a lot of movies. I watched a couple plays and musicals, and there wasn't for me, at least in my opinion, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for people who look like me. I loved Lion King because Lion King was the only show I ever saw, until In the Heights. And then I was like, oh wow,
Right.
so I think that, and there were others, but I didn't have access to them. And so I think that now having this show be as big as it is and have it be able to do the eduhams, to reach out to kids and do the lottery to reach out to people who may not have enough money to, afford tickets, whatever the case may be, to kind of try their best to reach out to communities that normally wouldn't have access to shows like this. Those are the communities I came from, the people who, like, I didn't have money to fly to New York and see a show on Broadway. I grew up
Yeah.
in Las Vegas, and shows in Vegas are expensive. And so, like, I didn't see a lot of shows growing up. And so, being able to be in a show that is at least trying, we might misstep and we might not always be able to get every single person to see it, but there are opportunities for people to come see it for cheaper than they would think. And so, I think being able to be a part
Right.
of a show like that is really amazing. And it's very near to my heart because I was that young kid.
Do you have any rituals before performing?
I mean, not any yes and no, I guess. I kind of do the same thing before every show. I listen to music. The music is different every day, but there's always music playing. So I get to the theater. We all get to the theater a half hour before the show. Um, that's when we're required to be there. I normally get there about 45 minutes before the show.
Mhm.
I'll play some music. I get some hot water. I put some lemon juice and some honey in it. I drink it before every show. And then yeah, I just kind of slowly get ready and warm up vocally, warm up physically, kind of get the like creativity going, kind of get into like the vibe and flow of the show. And then at like around 5 minutes to places, I usually sing the first part of my shot just to like say some of the text and like get my articulators ready to do the show. Because I don't
Right.
talk a lot before the show. Like I don't spend all day like out and about and like talking and stuff because I like to save
Mhm.
my voice. And so normally I'm like, okay, let's do I'm gonna get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but and I over enunciate so that I can get that like I could chew the lyrics a little bit. Um, and yeah, and then we go do the show.
Do you have a favorite backstage moment from performing in Hamilton, like with the cast, or a favorite rehearsal moment?
um, Favorite backstage or rehearsal? I mean, so we do a lot of fun stuff backstage. We do a lot of fun stuff. I think me and I'll just rattle off a couple. Me and our Angelica are in like a scare war, so we try to find different places to scare each other backstage. Our Washington Carvins, we circle up every show and we say a little prayer before the show, which is beautiful. We have our own rituals for like if there's a debut happening. So if we get a new person and they're debuting into the show, or if there's a standby or a swing who is doing a new role that they haven't done before, we have our own whole debut ritual for that. So that's always fun. but there's always something crazy happening backstage, but I can't talk about all that. That's a secret. But
Okay,
no.
all
But
right.
it's nothing crazy. It's nothing crazy, but it is a lot of fun. So
No, I know. Like I think Demarius, and
mhm.
when he was on the show, he did what was it? Yeah, King George's like song,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he slayed in that. So
he
I was
did.
wondering
He
if there
did.
are any similar stories.
There's a
Um,
lot. There's always a lot happening. Unfortunately, I don't
right,
see a
right.
lot of the backstage shenanigans because I'm always on stage. So I see
Hmm.
the before, and I see some in intermission. I
Right.
see the after. But if there's a lot happening during the show, I'm normally on stage saying words, so I miss a lot of it. But
Do you have a favorite tour stop so far?
um. I think Orlando. We're in Orlando right now, and Orlando's been kind of dope. I got to go to Disney World and Universal. The audiences have been amazing. My birthday was the first week here, so this is my birthday city, which is always fun. Yeah, I would say here, Tempe was cool. Tempe, Arizona. It was our first city back after the pandemic. So that was a really cool city, and we got to rehearse there. We were there for a while. Um,
Mhm.
Atlanta, DC, Philly. I don't know. We've hit a lot of cool cities, but yeah, they're all my favorite.
Do you have any advice for students who are pursuing a career in the performing arts?
I always, the advice I always give is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That is like the quote that I live by. As somebody who started very late in the musical theater game, I'm sure a lot of people you've talked to will say, I started tap dancing at 2 years old. I was taking classes when, I started in high school and didn't really start musical theater until after college. So I started late
Okay.
by most standards. Um, but I was committed to doing whatever I needed to do. Like I was committed to the work, and to the like, not just the like, I want to be famous. I want to be successful. Like I wanted to learn the craft. I wanted to learn how to act. I wanted to learn how to sing. I wanted to learn how to perform. Um, and so I think that for me was I became obsessive with it. I would I'd be watching YouTube video master classes at night before I went to bed, and when I woke up, I'd have my like it was a live, breathe, sleep, eat musical theater in all forms. And it's
Hmm.
because I started late. I'm sure other people could have spaced out that time over the course of their
Right.
lives, but I was like, I'm trying to achieve certain things in a short amount of time. So like I have to hit it into overdrive type thing. So I would say anybody who's pursuing it, just don't don't believe any limitations on yourself. Like really, if you have a love for it, be real with yourself and go for it. And don't like be like Hamilton. Be relentless. My best friend, he always reminded me of a quote that Steve Martin, the famous actor, used to say. It's like, be so good that they
Right.
can't deny you. You know, it doesn't matter if you think that there's always a first for everybody. People could have said like, "Oh, Hamilton would never exist." 10 years ago, people would say something like that. When Lynn first did the opening number for Obama in like what
Oh
2008 or
yeah.
something like that, everybody laughed like, "Oh, this could never be a musical." And now it's one of the biggest musicals of all time. So I would say that like, and that's because he worked very hard on it. And he was like, I'm gonna make it so good that they can't deny it. It doesn't matter if they think it's a funny or think that it's a joke. I'm gonna make it so excellent that they have to be like, well, dang, this is great. So I would say that same thing for younger people who want to be in this world. It is a tough one. You're gonna get a lot of no's. You're gonna get rejected a lot. You're gonna do auditions that you think you did such a good job and that oh my, I'm perfect for the role, and you're not going to get it, and it's going to hurt. And you're going to get thick skin, hopefully. But I would say at the end of the day, if you really love the art form, um, then be a student of the art, and at some point it will pay off, is what I'll say. It might not pay off on your timing in 2 years, 3 years, but you hear of actors all the time who were like, "Oh, I didn't book my first feature film until I was 65," and you're like, "Whoa, good thing you stuck with it," type thing. So yeah,
Right.
I would say that be a student of the art, just work as hard as you possibly can, and be so good they can't deny you.
Awesome. And then this is one last nerdy question.
Mhm.
Eliza at the end, she like gasps. So what do
Mhm.
you think? I know it's like the audience's interpretation, so everybody has different takes on what she was
Mhm.
reacting to. What do you think Eliza was reacting to at the end?
I think, I know they say it's dealer's choice. So if I say anything, it could be different. If you ask our Eliza, she might have an entire story of what she sees. But I think the
Right.
most commonly accepted idea is that she sees the audience for the first time, and it's the understanding that the story was told, that like she did all she could, and that it made it out to these thousands of people that are now watching the story, and that everyone else on stage has already passed away and has already like seen the truth of it all, and so I'm kind
Right.
of leading her to like, it's okay, like I know that you're worried if you did enough. I know that like, but everything is like, we're at peace now. Like everything is okay now. And so take a look, and that as she comes down, she like sees all these people who are moved by the story that she was able to tell. And that
Right.
is overwhelming for her. I would say that.